It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Kyle Benedict as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now here's today's Countywide.
Fort Verde, they have a couple, Fort Verde Historical Park, they have a couple events coming up on February 13th. It's a Saturday, and we're here to kind of cover some of those events, talk about the Buffalo Soldiers, vintage baseball game, also cooking demonstrations on the Dutch oven. So a lot of great stuff that's going to be taking place over at Fort Verde Historical Park on Saturday, February 13th. Here to talk about some of those events and give us a little preview on what you can expect to see there that Saturday, Assistant Park Manager Robert Jennings, as well as company cook Bill Stafford. So they're both here. I want to thank you both for coming here today. And
thank you very much for having us.
It's a blessing.
Fort Verde State Park, a lot of stuff goes on over there. I mean, for more information on this, you can visit the azstateparks.com for more information on this park. And there's just a ton of stuff that goes on over there. Talking about the events on the 13th, obviously. But Robert, let's start off with just kind of talking about yourself and as Assistant Park Manager. What exactly is your role over there at the fort?
My role at the park is to assist Sheila Stubler with helping running the park. Also to work with volunteers and our staff to make sure that all the duties get done at the park, you know, and we also do like setting up events and stuff like that. There's a lot goes on to running a park, and my job is to make sure that the maintenance is being done and assist in the office and to work with our volunteers, because our volunteers are a really important part of our park, because if it wasn't for the volunteers, we would have a really hard time. And so we really enjoy, and we're always looking for volunteers too to come in, and if they like the history and they have a passion for the park and stuff, we're more than glad to have them come in and talk to them and see where they can fit in with the park and give us a hand.
And now, how long have you been over there at the park?
Just a little over 2 years. I've been an assistant manager for just under a year, but I've been at the fort at Fort Verde for just a little over 2 years.
Okay, now are you from the area?
No, I'm originally from Tucson, Arizona.
Oh, okay.
I lived in Tucson, and I moved up here because I like the Verde Valley, and I just needed a change of pace.
Great, yeah, it's a beautiful area. Now, Bill, how about you? How did you get involved over there at Fort Verde?
I had met Sheila when I was working for the United States Forest Service, and we did Dutch oven cooking to support our volunteers and our trail crews and various volunteers. So 2004, during the archaeology month, Sheila asked myself and my sidekick, Bob Tiener, who's also a company cook, to come there and do some demonstrations.
Okay, and now how long have you been company cook?
Pretty much since 2004. Okay. I guess that's going on 12 years.
Okay, and we will be talking again about the Dutch oven demonstration, cooking demonstrations taking place on that Saturday. We actually have a Dutch oven right here, so a lot of great stuff to talk about. First off, what are, Robert, some of the events in addition to the Buffalo Soldiers? What else are we going to be expecting on the 13th?
On the 13th, we have a 1800s vintage baseball game. Lance from the Phoenix League is sending up his team, the Glendale Gophers, and we play the 1800s vintage baseball games during the period of the late 1800s. The rules are a lot different than the rules in the baseball today. We also have a flag raising and lowering ceremony. The flag raising starts at 9 o'clock, and at 5 o'clock we have the lowering. We also have the Dutch oven cooking, and we have guest speakers that'll actually be there to talk about the Buffalo Soldiers event.
Okay. For more information, we'll just get this phone number out there to everyone. For more information on this event, you can call 928-567-3275 for more information on this, or again, you can visit azstateparks.com. Okay, and what are people going to be seeing from the Buffalo Soldiers on the 13th?
Well, we'll have live history presentations. They'll talk about the history of what the African Americans went through during the Indian Wars in Arizona, and also talk about how they became, what their job duties were, and just give a bit of a history on who they were, because A lot of people don't know about the Buffalo Soldiers. They just know about what's on TV. So to actually come to these events and see a live historian that actually preserves the history of the Buffalo Soldiers, you actually can tell what's fiction and what's not fiction.
Okay. I'm sure it's a whole different perspective once you actually see these presenters in person and kind of seeing them in the clothing as well. So run by volunteers, all volunteers, just these presenters, these Buffalo Soldiers on Saturday. And how does someone get involved in that?
To actually get involved in it, you can come out, and if you love history and you want to be a part of it and to learn more about it, you can go online and research it, find the different organizations that are around through Arizona or around through the United States. A good example is to come out to Fort Verde and actually talk to our presenters. And if you have a passion for history, you'll learn a lot. I've learned a lot in the last 2 years, and I enjoy it. And I want to preserve the history that we do have here in Arizona.
Great. And Bill, as the company cook, can you just quickly go through what I guess the meals consisted of for these Buffalo Soldiers?
Well, in their field rations, they were issued hardtack, basically some meat, whatever they could have. They would have beans, and the Dutch oven itself, although it's very heavy, was used a lot by their packers. And during the Indian Wars, General Crook and his troops had mule packers that would pack, even something like this to the locations. And during the field operations, the soldiers would eat with the packers sometimes. But it was pretty primitive in the field. When they were at garrison or when they were at the forts or permanent camps, they would actually have kitchens as such, but it was very simple. A lot of times they would travel with beans. They would cook beans. Of course, it takes a long time to cook beans, but they would actually keep the beans. They would get cool. They'd put them in their packs. They'd move to another location, and they would actually have some beans, some hardtack. Sometimes they had salt pork. Usually they had a ration of sugar, a ration of coffee, and some tobacco. So the coffee and the tobacco were the biggies for them.
Okay, great. Well, when we come back from our first break, we'll talk about some of the demonstrations going on with the Dutch oven. Again, an event over at Fort Verde Historical State Park, Saturday, February 13th. For more information, phone number 928-567-3275. This is Countywide. We'll be back in a couple minutes.
Getting dumped by text is harsh. Try getting dumped by a tennis ball. My ex-owner drove me out to the woods, yelled fetch, and by the time I bought the ball back, he was gone. Yeah, I was pissed. But the folks at the shelter helped me let go of my anger. I learned coping skills, like taking it to the hole. Boom! Now I'm ready to fetch again. But how about I throw and you run and get it?
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
Marie, you have prediabetes.
Prediabetes? I don't have time to eat right or exercise. I'm a busy mom.
Oh, you're a busy mom.
Yeah.
This is great news. Busy moms never get prediabetes.
Wait, what?
Let me just... Yeah, this is all the people at risk for prediabetes, and way over here, busy moms. No?
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict, sitting down with Assistant Park Manager over at Fort Verde, Robert Jennings, as well as company cook Bill Stafford. And we're talking about they're having several events, Buffalo Soldier demonstrations, Dutch oven cooking demonstrations, vintage baseball game, a lot of stuff going on over there at Fort Verde on Saturday, February 13th, day before Valentine's Day. So if you're still looking for a date, you know, hey, it's not a bad place to go. So, Bill, before we took our first break, you were talking about some of the things the Buffalo Soldiers would eat, and of course the cooking demonstration is going to be going on Saturday with the Dutch oven. Can you tell us a little bit about this and how this exactly works? Because I'm looking at it here and wondering how this Dutch oven works.
The Dutch oven was brought over by the colonists to the New England states and the settlement of America. And it did not have the legs, it did not have the rim around here, and these were sold in colonial America. Paul Revere, the famous patriot, was a metallurgist. He invented what's called a camp Dutch oven, which has the rim so that you can put wood or coals on here so they don't fall off easily. It has the legs so that it acts like an oven. This is basically the first oven ever invented, except mud ovens. And so this can cook anything you can cook in an oven, a regular kitchen oven, except quicker. And so they are heavy. This is a 14-10 quart, and during the Buffalo Soldiers event to support the volunteers, each one of these 14-inch diameter deep Dutch ovens will carry about 10 pounds of roast pork that we can roast in about 3 hours in one of these at about 350 degrees. Although they look heavy, they're very compact. In those days, a mule could pack one of these things. One of these will feed up to 20, 25 people, hungry people. So that's kind of the basics of it. Coals on the bottom, coals on the top. In those days, they used wood. And of course, you know, they love to cook game meat. They love to cook, you know, anything they could find. Can make biscuits, you can make, but they cooked a lot of beans and chili and various other things. And they brought some of their cultural cooking in to those things.
You look at it here and it looks extremely heavy, and I can't imagine carrying that out on the trail or when you're out and about, but hey, I guess it's very, you know, what you can make in it and the fact that you can feed so many people.
And a mule could carry 300 pounds.
So this is what you're going to be cooking with on the 13th?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Oh, great. Great. So, hey, they got to eat, right? So, moving on to the vintage baseball game. Robert is dressed here in the period uniform. What is different? At the beginning of the show, you talked about the game is different back then than it was today a little bit. We have a baseball here and a bat as well, but what's different baseball back then versus today?
Well, baseball back then to today, 144 years ago, back in the late 1800s, or from 1850 to about 1900s, there was no gloves. You actually play in the field with gloveless hands, and the ball is the same size as a regular baseball today. It's just shaped a little different, the way it's stitched, and it's a lot softer. The rules are like if you catch this ball in the air, a spectator or infielder, outfielder, you're out. But if it bounces on the first bounce and you catch it, you're actually out too. So we encourage the fans to come out because we want them to be a part of the game too and to learn the rules. Also, like in baseball, when you hit a ground ball and you take off to first base, you can run through first base. Well, in this game, you can't. You have to stop at first base because if you run through and the ball gets to first base, you're out. There's no walks, unlike baseball. There's regular strikes, and the players are called different names. Like a batter is called a striker back then. And we encourage our Verde Valley residents to come out and support our games and to also learn about it, because we want to preserve the history of the game. There's an actual league in Phoenix, Lance. He actually is a big supporter with the fort, and he brings teams up. And we won the last 3 games, so the league in Phoenix has challenged us to some other teams to come up and play on an original field.
Okay, man, what just a fun experience. I mean, to kind of just add this to all the stuff that's going to be going on February 13th, and the fact that you guys are dressed in the actual uniforms that they wore back then is so cool. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about this stuff coming up on the 13th of this month on Saturday at Fort Verde. Again, more information 928-567-3275. This is Countywide. We'll see you in a couple minutes.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your closet. Still no jobs? Just more stuff? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
Me and my boy Matt had it good. He had catnip that was off the hook. But one day, he brings a girl home, and she's allergic to cats. Every sneeze was a nail in my coffin. Now I'm in a shelter. It's decent, but they don't even have Wi-Fi.
Look at you. You're at the top of your game. You're unstoppable. Nothing can throw you off track. Wait, is that your car? Uh-oh. Yeah, I saw that coming. That will throw you off track. You're looking at around 10 grand in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Let's try this again. Smart move. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict, sitting down with Fort Verde Assistant Park Manager Robert Jennings and company cook Bill Stafford, talking about events going on at Fort Verde Saturday, February 13th. Buffalo Soldiers will be there, as well as vintage baseball game, cooking demonstrations on the Dutch oven, all kinds of stuff. And Buffalo Soldiers, they're celebrating an anniversary of this event?
Yeah, we're celebrating our 10th anniversary for the Buffalo Soldiers event held at Fort Verde. We're also celebrating the 150th anniversary of African Americans in the military, and it feels like very important. I mean, it takes a lot of our volunteers and our staff to really get these events on, and we just want the public to come out and to actually really enjoy these events and the history of it.
Great. And Bill, you mentioned that the public can join the Buffalo Soldiers in the meal as well?
Yes, a meal at lunch. We're going to have roast pork, gravy, Irish potatoes, sweet potatoes. We're going to have vegetables cooked, and we're going to have some peach cobbler going, and almost everything will be cooked in the Dutch ovens by our volunteer cooks. We have about a dozen that help, and Kevin and Betty and Bob and a bunch of others are our main cooks. So that's, come and eat. try some roast pork. You know, we try to do some Southern style cooking, you know, for the Buffalo Soldiers. We're there to support the volunteers and give the public a chance to learn this. That is a very good skill in modern days too. You can cook a lot, you know, when you're camping, hunting, fishing with these things. So it's a good opportunity to learn.
That's great. That's great. Okay, well, thank you both for being here today, and yeah, have a good time. Should be a great time again. The event's taking place at Fort Verde on Saturday, February 13th. Buffalo Soldiers, vintage baseball game, Dutch oven, all kinds of stuff. So again, that's going to be February 13th. For more information, 928-567-3275. You can also visit azstateparks.com. That's going to do it for Countywide today. We'll see you next time.